Yeah, sure. Before I get into kind of the status of Red Hill, I think maybe for the viewers who are uninitiated, Red Hill is referring to the Navy's Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, which was constructed in the 1940s to have a kind of subterranean fuel facility during World War II to conceal the primary fuel depot from, like Japanese Zeros in case they tried to bomb them. It was completed in around 1943 and contains up to 250 million gallons of jet fuel at its maximum capacity. And the thing about it is that it is just 100 feet above our sole source aquifer, and it has been leaking ever since it finished construction. There was a major leak in 2014 where about 39,000 gallons of jet fuel leaked, but it didn't get noticeably into the civilian water supply, although I have heard recently from Red Hill affected family members that it actually did. It just wasn't as widely reported. But in 2021, it was right in the middle, actually, of many of us before Oahu Water Protectors became Oahu Water Protectors. We were organizing since probably around July of that same year. In November of 2021, over the Thanksgiving weekend, 19,000 gallons of toxic jet fuel leaked into the Navy's water supply because in, kind of a U.S. military feat of genius, they decided to put their water shaft in the same tunnel as their fuel tunnel, where the pipelines for the fuel was also where their water shaft was. So 19,000 gallons of toxic jet fuel leaks into 93,000 households. And over that entire weekend, thousands of people get violently ill. And many of those people will have terrible health problems and even shortened lifespans for the foreseeable future. And so we really kicked into action and started rapidly organizing, mobilizing, and agitating to shut down Red Hill. And within just a few months, we had extracted a historic L from the U.S. military, which is not something that you get very often. We got them to commit. We got Lloyd Austin to commit to shutting down Red Hill finally after years and years of organizing. But the defueling process has taken another 3 years, and we have finally reached the point where the approximately 104 million gallons that were remaining in Red Hill were defueled. There are still tens of thousands of gallons of residual fuel, not only in the facility and areas that they're still trying to reach, but also just in the soil. It has been kind of ambiently leaking from the facility for decades. I talked to a whistleblower, Victor Peters, who worked at the facility, who told me when he first came in there in the mid-1970s that there were leaks like if you kind of like turn on a faucet lightly, and you see that little, tiny stream. He said there were those kinds of leaks in multiple tanks and multiple pipelines that he could see, and there was fuel just trickling onto the tunnel floor, and that's 50 years ago, right? So you can only imagine how much fuel is still in there, and so at this point, we are going to have to organize around Red Hill for probably the rest of our lives. And I've been telling people, it's like, I'm never taking that Shut Down Red Hill bumper sticker off of my car, and I would encourage other people to keep it on as well, because to me personally, Red Hill has not been shut down. Even after every last drop of fuel has been drained from that facility, Red Hill wasn't defueled so much as it was dispersed. The fuel in that facility was dispersed into our drinking water, into our sole source aquifer that provides water to nearly 500,000 people on this island. It was dispersed into our bloodstreams, into the blood of children, including civilian children, including Kanaka Maoli children, Native Hawaiians, into our ecosystem, into our other than human relatives. And until that is removed from Hawaii, Red Hill, to me, has not been shut down yet. And so it's going to be the work of possibly generations. And in addition to that, in 2022, almost on the anniversary of the jet fuel leaks, 1,300 gallons of what's called aqueous film forming foam, AFFF. It's mil-spec, which is, say, military specification fire extinguishing foam in its concentrated form. It's called 3% mil-spec, which means you have to add 97 parts aerated water to it just to deploy as what we are more familiar with, which is firefighting foam, right? 1,300 gallons of concentrate leaked into our groundwater via Adit 6 in the facility while they were trying to repair this deteriorating Red Hill facility to defuel it. They basically, to sum it up really quickly, they put an innie in an outie and then did a hot test, which they were not supposed to do. And 1,300 gallons of concentrate flowed into like a 10-gallon capacity standpipe, and it immediately, like blew up. And so you can actually see security footage of this, and it just starts streaming out of the door of the facility and straight out into Kapukaki, which is Red Hill. And like 1 teaspoon of that 1,300 gallons of AFFF concentrate, that's enough to contaminate like hundreds of millions of gallons of water for centuries. And so I've been telling people that even though it hasn't gotten into any of the water that is in their monitoring test wells, they have basically dropped a nuclear bomb on Oahu with a delayed fuse. And so that AFFF is going to follow the same path that any liquid has followed down that porous lava rock that is our aquifer for the last millennia, right? So it is only a matter of time. It could be tomorrow, it could be 10 or 20 years from now, but that is going to get into our drinking water, and it is going to be such a level of contamination that it will, unless we find some way to treat it, it will make it undrinkable. And we will end up like the indigenous people of Okinawa, who have suffered the same type of colonial violence from the US military that leaked a catastrophic amount of PFAS into their sole source aquifer that coincidentally provides water to nearly 500,000 people on the island. So we have a snapshot of what our future is going to look like in Okinawa. And it really, that example is a clear demonstration of just how interconnected all of our struggles are around the world. We have commonalities in cultures and in the things that we can celebrate, but I think what will unite us in efforts for our collective liberation is that we have a common oppressor, right? and this common desire to lift the yoke of our oppressor off our backs in order to live not just happy lives, but healthy ones with access to clean water. And that this colonial domination that we faced by the US is faced by everyone who has any type of US military installation in their homeland. and because of the widespread nature of the US military and its proxies, its vassal states in basically every region of the world, that contamination, that desecration, that dispossession is global.